workout.
Canadian Forces Edition.
Yeah, so this is the Holy Bible, put out by the Canadian Bible Society. The Word for Life. I thought it was saying the worst for life. The Word for Life. So that's, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and so on and so forth. The Holy Bible. It's even got the insignia of the Canadian Forces. Canadian Forces Edition. This is for Catholics because it's got the Apocrypha in it. And it says, I recall, the Good News edition. It's Good News edition. So it's not exactly a Catholic. I don't think the Good News Bible was put out by Catholics, so it's maybe not Catholic, an official Catholic translation, but it might have the approval. Well, it would have the approval of the Catholic Church because I think it has introduction from the. It does say the Catholic edition. It's got a nice Maltese cross on it. Inside, issued from Toronto, Ontario, and I think it's got an introduction or two by someone at least purporting to be an official representative of the Catholic Church. Would it be an archbishop name? Just trying to find out. Sorry to keep you guys, so it's forward to the Catholic edition of the Good News Bible. Jean-Pierre Ruiz. Mixture of French and Canadian and Spanish names. At St. John's University, New York. Weirdly enough, we had to get someone from New York to do it. Epiphany 2000. So he's STD, so sexually transmitted disease. No, I don't know what that stands for. Society of TD something or other. Anyway, it looks as though he's something official or something like that, and that's good. So the Catholic Church presumably approves of it. There's a little bit of there's some maps. They're actually not that well done, but I think they get everything basically located in a proper location. I can't guarantee that, but they're not bad. They're not in color, but what the hey, maybe our Canadian Forces are colorblind or something like that. Let's just see. Read the Bible in a year. It's got your assignments in here.
That's cute.
It's got several chapters. You should be able to read it in a week, really, if you're really dedicated and devoted. But it's a different matter. The fact is, if you're really motivated, you should be able to read the New Testament, which is, of course, not half the Bible in terms of length, in one day. In the same way, you should be able to read the Quran, at least the English translation, in one day if you actually care. There are a lot of people who are strutting around saying that they know all about Islam, and we can't be bothered to read the Quran.
Oh, well, not necessarily an English translation, depending on
exactly
what language you speak, right?
Well, the people that are strutting around claiming that they know it would not.
I mean, these things nowadays, I mean, you can get the Quran in all sorts of languages, and you can get the Bible in all sorts of languages.
All sorts. I've got 60 versions of the Bible in different languages. I've actually got 40 versions of the Book of Mormon in different languages. And don't make a straw guy out of me. I'm not a Mormon, okay? Nor am I Christian, get that straight. Nor, for that matter, am I Muslim, get that straight. Anyway, they do have a word list. They don't call it a glossary or a vocabulary. It's maybe a little bit short, like it's 10 pages or something like that. There's a lot of weird concepts in the Bible, and it's about 10 pages. So what I really like about this is it's
the camouflage.
The camouflage, that's in case you get captured by some terrorist who thinks the Bible is heretical or something like that, and that might save your life. You just hide it in some sand somewhere or whatever. You know, it's kind of like sandy colored or whatever. It's not like the green camouflage. It's kind of greenish, sandish color. Khaki. I think khaki is, they always said it khaki, and well, it sounded like khaki to me. It's born in a British colony. I'm not a Brit. My parents were Canadian missionaries, nor were they Mormon missionaries. They wouldn't allow that. They send out singles. They send out signals, but yeah, we had khaki uniforms. I think it means powder in one of the, maybe several of the languages of South Asian subcontinent. So there you have it. Now, is it any good? Well, the Good News Translation is, what was that?
You had khaki-colored uniforms at school?
At school, sorry. Yeah, at school. We went to a mission school. So it was, there were, incidentally, it was segregated. We didn't stay in what they call the dormitories. Those would be residences. And I'm telling you right now, I every so occasionally went to those residences. That would have been at the latest 64. The residences I saw for the indigenous people on the Guyanai Reserve, the Blood Reserve here, were, if anything, better. And those residences in Africa were on an American mission. There were not Americans there, but there'd be Brits there, there'd be Boers there, Afrikaners there, and stuff like that. And the residents on the Guyanai Reserve were as good, if not better. Yes, it was 8 years later, but 8 isn't that much. So when we hear it was awful malnutrition, I don't know about the malnutrition. I'm going to be checking with someone who used to teach on maybe on several resident schools to see what she thinks about the
I suspect that people weren't being fed their ancestral diet or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
their cultural diet. And so they might have been eating something like this. And
not like it.
Not like it.
And maybe not eating. I mean, any time that I went into a camp or something like that, which was once, but went to places where I was depending on other people to cook up food for me, I was going short of food. So what was it like? I went to a camp in Africa. It was an awful experience.
Apparently his brother loved it.
Oh, he loved it.
And so he went the year before. And
he came back with great news.
He wanted to go back again.
Again. He probably would have gone back the next year, but we were out of there. Anyway, by the next year. I think that's the only reason why we weren't sent back. But, well, John was, they would have had to hold him back from going early. But the food was awful. I mean, I've been basically a vegetarian.
Evidently your brother liked it.
The food was awful, on objective terms, because really, I've been a vegetarian, even though I didn't become an official vegetarian, well, something like an official. I still eat oysters and the occasional bit of fish. So I guess you could call me a pisco-vegetarian, although there is a new buzzword for it. It's probably not that new. There might be something politically incorrect with pisco-vegetarian, I'm not sure. But I'm going to use that because that gets the concept across pretty darn. Why did you change it? I don't get it. Anyway, all this musical chairs with words does not make gauchos, lefties popular with people who aren't terribly in sympathy with them. It makes them more unpopular. Don't do it. Unless there's absolute necessity for it, don't. For Pete's sake, don't do it. It just makes you look stupid. And sometimes just like as though you're trying to hide the truth. And sometimes that's what you guys are trying to do. So, and I don't mean to suggest that every vegetarian is a faux gauche. Don't get me wrong. Maybe vast majority, I'm not sure. Not a full gauche. Anyway, I couldn't stand. They always had meat mixed in with stuff, into stews and stuff like that. And what I did was I just ate breakfast. I did not eat anything from the noon meal or the evening meal. Nothing, because they had meat mixed in. Horrible hunks of fat and gristle and stuff like that. So it was horrible in that way. But they were providing stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you looked at it in objective terms or something like that, you'd say, oh, there's no way someone could be malnourished from this. Well, that's if it was to their taste. And I only ate, I tried to get extras from their breakfast, and they wouldn't let me have it. You know? It was a bad experience. Luckily, it was only for a week. It seemed like 2 weeks, but I don't want to exaggerate.
Well, you were hungry.
Well, it's other things, you know, like, I don't know. Like, what do you do all day in camp? Regular camp, you're out there exploring and stuff like that. What we did, I don't know. It was almost like a retreat or something like that, where you're getting the propaganda. And so it was just Christian stuff all the time. You know, like stuff that you'd heard a million times before and tried to block out a million times before. So now I read the stuff and I'm going, yeah, it's my own choice. But there's stuff to be said for reading the Bible. I much prefer reading the Old Testament. I prefer the teachings of the New Testament, but I prefer there are ethical
stories.
There are ethical systems that are much better than the New Testament ethical system. But and that's what we should be working towards, instead of saying multiculturalism is having it's what I call posse-culturalism, where you have a few favored, old-fashioned, morally compromised, we'll say, religions duking it out. And that's what's happened. You know, people are all for multiculturalism. I'm going to tell you a little secret. It should be a very open secret. We've had multiculturalism forever. As soon as people started traveling long distances, you know, to the long distance, it might be 10 miles. You had multiculturalism. Cultures clash of civilizations. You know, like you know, there's been huge hue and cry about that book, Clash of Civilizations. You know, because it's it's making it so that people won't get along with each other in the future. Clash of Civilizations is basically just saying there's going to be more of the same. More of the same. When you get cultures together that aren't compatible, they are going to clash. That's, you know, like, we've got a statistically significant sample now. It's hundreds and hundreds of data points that indicate when cultures that aren't compatible get together, they clash. So why would you expect something different in the future? Oh, we're going to mix them up locally. Mix them up. You look at what happened when the Ottomans did that intentionally in southeastern Europe. And we're still living, and lots of people are still dying with the consequences. They would take certain ethnic groups, Christian generally, they'd move them from where they lived, and then they'd put them into a group of other people. Let's say Serbs, mix them up with Croats, mix them up with Slovenians, mix and match all over the place. And we're still living, and they're still dying with the consequences. It was an evil policy. And when you mix people together and their cultures aren't compatible, you are going to get bloodshed. So what it is, sadly, is a formula not for international war anymore. It's a formula for civil war as well. You stupid fools. You've actually got to have people getting together who are willing to tolerate each other's differences of belief and practice and so on, and colors and so on and so forth. So you don't have that with the traditional religions. That's why they were, and belief systems, they were fighting each other because they couldn't stand each other. They couldn't stand their beliefs. So you're going to mix them together even closer quarters. You stupid fools. Stupid. And then you're going around saying, oh man, there was another hate crime and stuff like that. Of course, the hate crimes all tend to be one side. They're all against people of color. Well, when people of color do it, oh, it was a reaction to something or other. Yeah, they couldn't help it. That's pretty patronizing. People of color, they can't help it. Is it in their genes? Is that what you're saying? I hope not. I don't think it is. Because I think you've got this crazy idea that the original sin didn't start with original people. It started with capitalism and whiteys. And somehow or another men came to the fore, like maybe with a Renaissance 500 years ago. For Pete's sake, read the Assyrian annals. You don't have to read it like me. Like me in the original. I'm not requiring that of you. It would be nice if you'd actually get a few intellectual things under your belt, because there's going to be translations that maybe aren't reliable. But read this stuff in translation. It's awful stuff. That empire went down. Assyrians still exist. That empire went down even before 600 BC, well over 2.5 millennia before now. And more than 2,000 years before whiteys, anything that you could think of as being capitalist, at least industrial type of capitalists, started to take over the world. And oh my heavens, I mean, they're actually drawing pictures depicting rape. They're ethnically cleansing people of different ethnicities. It might be a bit much to say they were into genocide, but they did lots and lots of killing. They disappeared the 10 lost tribes. They disappeared other tribes. They made the Samaritans. The Samaritans are the only Arab who have any long-term claim to the so-called Holy Land. They were moved there to replace the 10 lost tribes. We have the Assyrian record for it. It wasn't their choice. They were moved in there. They still exist. I don't know who they feel a loyalty to in the long run. Any Samaritan who's left in the Holy Land that doesn't trust the Israelis more than the Muslims or even the Arab Christians is, well, suicidal. That's all I gotta say. Suicide, crazily suicidal. I mean, you know, the center, Baha'i, I think started in Iran. The world center for the Baha'i religion is not in Iran, like Yazd or something like that, or Mashhad, or Tehran, or Hamadan, ancient Ekbatana, or Abadan. Not in any of those places. It's in Haifa. Where do you think Haifa is? It's in Israel. The Baha'i trust the Israelis more than they trust any fellow Muslim. Enough said. Oh, maybe they're not fellow Muslims because they're heretics, because they had a prophet after the seal of the prophets. But that's where it came from. It came from out of the Muslim religion, and they trust the Israelis more than all the Muslims. What's wrong? What's wrong with this religion? It's supposed to be so tolerant, and yet people are fleeing it. Fellow Muslims are fleeing fellow Muslims. What's wrong? You got this hugely intolerant society, the United States, when people of different colors, belief systems, belief practices are flocking to the United States. They're flocking to Canada. And they're fleeing lots of different belief systems, but the one that they're fleeing the most from is the Muslim system. What's wrong? If you guys are so tolerant, get tolerant. Start tolerating. Oh, in the past you were. In Spain you were. Here's what Moses Maimonides said. He's supposed to be a sign of this Muslim tolerance. He's a Jewish philosopher. And he fled Spain. And he didn't flee towards the Christians. He fled towards the Muslims in Egypt from Spain. Why did he do that? Oh, the Christians must have been so awful. Here's what he said. Right? You know, it's important to go back to real sources. Not some idiots who have an axe to grind. Did he have an axe to grind? Maybe he legitimately had an axe to grind. Here's what he said. They, presumably the Muslims, in Spain, treated us, i.e. the Jews, worse than any other group has treated us. That includes the Assyrians, the aforementioned Assyrians. That includes the Babylonians who took them up into captivity, who ethnically cleansed them. The Assyrians ethnically cleansed half or more of them.
The Egyptians?
I don't know if well, the Egyptians, actually, the Jews and Israelis were kind of okay with them. That's some of the things that my research has indicated.
Really?
They were part of the Egyptian Empire. Oh, when they've got... Under Saul, they were allies. Someone who preceded me figured that out. They were allies of the Egyptians. Under David, it would have been very uncomfortable. Because David, according to the Bible, went all the way up to the Euphrates. A place called Thapsacus. Thapsacus in Greek. I think it's